Lewis Ward.
Mr Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on this sale and supply of alcohol, display of low alcohol beverages and other remedial matters amendment bill. What I essentially want to highlight was that in 2012, when the sale and supply of alcohol legislation went through, Labor had a minority report, and there were 4 areas that we thought hadn't been addressed in that primary legislation. And they were, Mr Speaker, a lack of minimum pricing, availability of alcohol, advertising and sponsorship. And the 4th one actually is why we're here today, because it was about lowering alcohol limits for driving. So what I want to note is that post the introduction of that primary piece of legislation, the government in fact did enact a piece of legislation, the Land Transport Amendment Act, which came into effect in December 2014. And what that piece of legislation did was lower the blood alcohol limit from 80 milligrams per 100 mils of blood to 50 milligrams per 100 mils of blood. And as a consequence of that legislative change, what it in fact did was inspired a change in drinking behaviour. So we're actually here because we didn't put it in the primary piece of legislation. The government then changed that particular lowering the blood alcohol limit, and now, because of that phenomenon, people actually have changed their drinking behaviour because of demand. You've had alcohol manufacturers actually respond to that demand, and so what they've done is created alcohol beverages that are low alcohol and actually zero alcohol beers. And so this actually speaks to, I think, a changed culture. When I look at, for example, the increase in light beer consumption in New Zealand, in the space of 2 years it's gone from 1% to 5%, and actually in Australia it's now 24%. So it is linked to legislative reform, it's linked to health and wellbeing, it's linked to how we're drinking differently, and so the inspiration for this piece of legislation comes from that. But I think also from our perspective, we would have thought that if we're going to reform the primary piece of legislation, that is the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act, that actually there could have been other things that we could have looked at, given that reform is going to take place. So I stand here as a member of the Justice and Electoral Select Committee, obviously in support, but we look forward to the further debates at the Select Committee about what other changes or what other amendments are relevant. Kia ora.
Joe Naylor.